Hare Krishna, welcome to Anartha-Nivritti 12 Steps Bootcamp Day 4. Today's topic is Manas Shiksha. And the first step, admitting powerlessness. So the main theme is admitting that self-will is not working. This is also the theme in the AA program, the original Alcoholic Anonymous program, that self-will is what ruins us. And for us as devotees, basics, Bhagavad Gita. Like Arjuna, we must also admit our vulnerabilities, our limitations before Krishna, meaning openness, honesty, so that Krishna can take over the chariot reins for us. We have sent out the handouts. So if you've studied the handout, in this particular handout, Manas Shiksha and the 12 Steps of Anartha-Nivritti, the first verse of the Manas Shiksha, it's talking to the mind. So the whole Manas Shiksha is about dialoguing with the mind, how to dialogue with the mind. So this 12 Steps program is inspired by the Manas Shiksha principle in applying. By the way, there are 12 verses of Manas Shiksha, and this is Anartha-Nivritti 12 Steps. I do not claim that this is like all informative, theoretical classes and courses about Anartha-Nivritti. This is actually tools to apply in our bhakti yoga, in our sadhana bhakti. So these 12 steps are basic, very simple, basic 12 steps, and they are backed by scriptural references to help you use these tools in your daily life. And we also have a supportive community to help you cross over. Now, I want to read this philosophical connection to this particular verse of Manas Shiksha. Basically, the preaching is the mind is instructed to give up false ego, dambha, and fully surrender to Krishna. Taking refuge in Guru, the holy name, and pure devotees is the key to transcendental shelter. So why that instruction is given? Because the ego resists surrender and keeping us trapped in the illusion of control. And admitting powerlessness is not a sign of weakness, but the first step to freedom. By letting go of self-will, we become receptive to Krishna's grace. So we will be touching upon this theme today's session here. That whole healing, that recovery, the coming back into that true self, higher self, it requires humility. The more we hang on to that pride and control and illusion, the harder it becomes for us to recover our true selves. Okay, now this illusion of control, right? It's like there is like a truth bomb I'm gonna drop here. The truth bomb is this: we micromanage what we think should be under our control. Kartaham iti manyate. So, are we the doer or not the doer? Karta or not the Karta? This is a whole dilemma in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna keeps showing us that we are not in charge at all, at all. So I've had many days like this. I plan the entire day, perfect sadhana, perfect service, perfect mood, and then suddenly internet crashes. Someone upsets me. I get late to the class, and then my mind's reaction, all that which is held within, all those triggers, all those unhealed wounds, all those resentments come up. And then I go, why did you do this, Krishna? Why this, Krishna? Why does Krishna do this? So Krishna very clearly states in the Gita that you have a right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of the action. So we want certainty, we want control, we want to surrender, we want to trust Krishna, but it's conditional, right? So the illusion of with control, we want to trust Krishna with control. So the illusion of control, in essence, is we think we control, and we plan, we strategize, we micromanage our life in so many ways. And reality check, life happens. Krishna reminds us who is in charge. And then the true power. What is the true power? The true power is we don't control results. We can only control our surrender. That Krishna, may your will, not mine, be done. That's the only thing that actually can be. So have you ever noticed how the mind is very stubborn and it's sometimes even stuck? Have you like had a dialogue with your mind? when you're trying to like convince it to do something right, something good. It justifies. It's like a stubborn lawyer arguing, hey, why do you have to surrender now? Let's try this way and then that way. So this dialogue that goes on within our own parts in our mind, it's like a stubborn, there are stubborn parts of us. So how it blocks, why is that? Why is that a problem? Because nowadays, a lot of modern people are like, don't force your mind and take care, and taking care of yourself means to listen to the mind. No, there's a very thin line between the two things. It's not that you cannot take care of yourself and discipline the mind. It's like a parent-child relationship. You love your child very much, but you also need to discipline that. So self-justification is, I know I should let go, but my situation is special. My situation is different, so therefore I don't want to. And then there is also many other reasons, like blame shifting. I could surrender if the circumstances were different, if my partner behaved differently, if this job opportunity worked out. So there's always that mind, different games that the mind plays. I mean, this is such an excellent book. There are commentaries by different devotees in this Manashiksha. We're trying to take those into our program as well. And I highly recommend to get this copy as well. Then there's procrastination, of course. So, I mean, what I'm telling you is not even a drop from this whole ocean of Manashiksha. This is just some tools we're giving with 12 steps to apply that so you can come to these meetings. We will have these meetings, we'll have support system for you so you can actually come and take advantage. Because alone, I read this book, Procrastination. I'll surrender, but later. I'll chant, but later. I'll read Bhagavatam, but later. But then during that time, between the time we think later and the actual time that we do, or if we do, we overanalyze. A few more months, a little more time, and then time just goes. Something or another keeps coming up. And of course, another problem that I have, maybe you can relate to it, is selective surrender. I'll surrender this part of my life, but not the other part. So it's like riding on two boats. That doesn't work. In the program, the 12 steps program is like, you cannot serve God and devil. You cannot have your leg in two boats. Either we give it to Krishna or we keep trying to control. So we have to make the choice. This is a boot camp for you to figure out. You want your life to be in Krishna's hand, or you still want to. And Arjuna, when he speaks about his mind, he says the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, very, very strong. I can't control it. I can control wind, but not mind, Krishna says. So the fact is this, the mind plays games with us, making us think that we're surrendering while we are actually being controlled by the mind. We're being slaves of the mind. Now, so the mind's endless justifications, we analyze endlessly. I'll surrender, but first let me analyze everything 100 times. And then conditional trust. I can trust Krishna, but can he do it my way? I'll trust him, but can he do? So we treat Krishna like an order supplier. And then special case syndrome. Oh my God, I face that so much. A lot of people say, no, my situation is different. In principle, our situation is not different from that of Arjuna, from that of Gajendra, from that of Draupadi, from that of Ajamil, from that of Pingala. We will study all these stories in our step work. So all these examples may be different stories, but in principle, they are the same. So my situation is different is another mind's excuses and justifications. And we need to talk to the mind and say, why are you saying that? And then sort it out. So instead of saying, I'll let go, but let it go later, we go to Krishna now. We come to the meeting now. So imagine, okay, a horse trying to direct its charioteer. Be chaos. So instead of letting the driver lead, if we let our mind drive, mind is like a cocoon of so many triggers and samskaras and all the different types of anarthas coming from sinful activities, anarthas coming from pious activities, anarthas coming from doing devotional service, anarthas coming from offenses. So you have the handout of the anarthas. So all these things like a cobweb of all these things. So it's like when we say I'm surrendered, but actually we're just being held secretly by the reins of our mind's game. Then we may follow rules to some extent, but we also keep our attachments hidden. We saw it in the first and the second day of the session about wearing masks. So I wear a mask of trying to be like false prestige. I am a devotee. I do Bhagavatam classes. I am doing Bhakti Vaibhav, whatever it is, that false prestige that I hang on to. And then internally, I'm doing all these things to get something in return. So then we don't experience actual joy of Krishna consciousness. So we follow rules, but we keep attachments. We also have all these internal fears and other things, like I may chant, but I don't let go of my ego-based desires. I'm not really giving it to Krishna. So I serve, I do external service, but I expect Krishna to meet my timeline and do things my way. So here we see there are those four things, like overthinking, drinking problem, thinking problem. In the Alcoholic Anonymous, in that big book, they say about drinking problem, and it's very, very intense. A lot of people go through heavy problems with their drinking addiction. So I was thinking, if I just replace the word drinking with thinking, the whole book applies to me. And this is a modern day situation with people. When we are overthinking, the energy is stuck. It's not flowing. There's no Krishna's will. And there are four reasons. We have studied that. Some of you who have been to these meetings, fear. Fear is one big, huge one. Constantly, when we're ruled by fear, we're not ruled by Krishna. Krishna is not there. The energy, we're not allowing Krishna to be there. We've allowed fear to take over. So the overthinking feels productive. Momentarily, we feel like we're busy, but actually it's just blocking, stuck energy, not allowing Krishna. And the second one is the analysis, analyzing, paralysis by analysis. So we're not really acting. And then there's another word for it, can be resentment. There's a lot of resentment. Oh, why did she do that? Why did she do that? I don't know. So remaining in that resentment, tamas guna. And instead of acting, we stay stuck. One of the things that in the other AA program, they have 100 meetings. When people are very desperate, we really hit the rock bottom. That's when we're really ready for transformation. When things are going on 50-50, we're only 50% open for Krishna's will. But when things all hit the rock bottom and we don't know what else to do, and we're really stuck and struggling, and I can look at myself in the mirror and I see that there is something really wrong about my practice and it's not really working for me, then I try to take shelter. Then I'm willing to be open-minded. I'm willing to be honest, and there's nothing more to lose, nothing left to lose anymore. Then the seriousness comes. So another thing is about honesty is very important in this program. Honesty with Krishna. Now, if we're staying disconnection and dishonesty, it keeps us in suffering. It keeps us away from our purpose. It keeps us away from the peace that we are looking for, fulfillment that we are looking for. I remember earlier when I started this program, there was so much disconnection and there was so much dishonesty. I wasn't even being honest with myself. And one of my friends would say, don't bullshit yourself. Why are you saying these things to yourself? Be honest with yourself. So it's very important to practice that honesty. What am I truly feeling? What am I truly desiring? It's very important to be honest and not to kind of camouflage the reality, at least to Krishna. Sometimes we think Krishna knows everything. Yeah, but Krishna wants us to be aware as well. Krishna would like us to introspect. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says introspection is very important. So without that honesty, without that connection, alignment, there is no peace. No peace. Krishna says in the Gita, how can there be happiness without peace? So therefore, what is the true progress? The true progress is to give up selfishness, actions guided by Krishna, not by our mind, not by our active mind, and not giving into the parts and being blended with them and doing what they want. Okay. So I'm sorry, you can't see all the text, but yeah, the selfishness, overcoming selfishness. So these are the four not self themes. These are the self-will themes. When I am afraid, fear, resentment cannot be Krishna's guidance. Resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness. Selfishness is like the core of every addiction, every anartha, selfishness. All right. Then, moving on further, one observation is that trusting Krishna, right? There's one path, one side is the control, and the other path is trusting Krishna. So we are often we're finding ourselves in the middle of this too. So our biggest block is not actually just attachment to certain things like Gajendra's prayers. It's not just that I want to be free from that crocodile and I want to be free, liberated. The problem is not the attachment. The problem is the trust in Krishna. The problem is to let go and let Govinda. That is the biggest issue we actually can see when we're taking up this meetings and looking. So that's the key between the bridge between this effort and surrender. So taking action, showing up to the meetings, keep coming back because you're worth it. You can, if you work it, it will work. So these themes help us taking action to show up in life, to show up in meetings, to show up in our Bhagavatam reading, to show up in chanting, whatever the spiritual path we are, show up at job, show up in parenting, show up with our partners. So it's very important that effort and surrender. One of the ways we surrender is by showing up. Then the second part is the releasing of that attachment. So letting go and letting Govinda. Let go and let Govinda. There's one of our big formulas in our thing. Whenever we're hanging on, whenever we're clinging to and we're struggling, there's pain, there's frustration, there's anger, there's depression, let go and let Govinda. So this is a releasing of attachments, releasing what we're holding on to. Trust Krishna, trusting in Krishna's plans, allowing the divine plan. Srila Prabhupada says in the 7th canto how there's no point in trying to endeavor too much for our pleasures. It's already there. Prarabdha karma, certain things, happiness, it'll come on its own accord. Distress will come on its own accord. What will not come on its own accord is the willingness to surrender, willingness to align to Krishna's will. So allow divine plan to unfold one day at a time. That's another formula we have, one day at a time. So trust Krishna and one day at a time. All right. And one thing I want to say about the bridge between the effort and surrender, selfishness is what keeps us stuck. And it keeps us stuck in the mind. It keeps us away from Krishna's will. So if we focus on our spiritual checklist, spiritual, when I say it's not just about chanting these many rounds or going to spiritual checklist, humility, non-enviousness, patience, surrender, those checklists as well. And doing those japa, doing those temple visits, doing those devotional service without a personal agenda. We want Krishna, usually we want Krishna to fit into our plan instead of aligning ourselves to Krishna's plan. So we can't just control our behavior. We cannot do that. I have tried it. We cannot control our behavior, but we must relinquish that control so that we can align to Krishna's will, so that the outcome is based on Krishna. The center is Krishna. Okay. Yeah, that's an important point. Then the truth is, we secretly enjoy the illusion of control, even when it makes us suffer. I missed this in our previous presentation I had, so I'm remaking this video because I really wanted to touch this point as well. We secretly enjoy the illusion of control. There is a pleasure in being in tamas guna, in ignorance. I am so poor me. I got left out. Oh, poor me. I don't have this capacity. Oh, me. Oh, so victim, being a victim. How long? So, and sometimes we also like the passionate control. Oh, she did that because I made her do it. I gave this, I did that. So that's another illusion of control. And then when it doesn't happen, oof, ichha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. So like this, I don't like this. I don't like what she said to me. And then we are shattered. So the examples of mental justifications are very expensive. The cost of self-will is very, very expensive. Why? Because, one thing is, if imagine telling Krishna, I'm too messed up to surrender properly, let me fix myself first, then I'll surrender to you. That is not Krishna consciousness. So if I let go, What if Krishna doesn't do what I expect? This is my great fear, and that's been the fear of many of us who have taken this path. What if I let go and Krishna doesn't do what I expect? So then the other side of it is surrender sounds great, but I still want my preferences, right? So but there is a cost. There's a cost. What's the cost? Clinging to control, thinking that I'll feel safer. And it's very exhausting. It's very exhausting. Self-will drains our energy. For most of us, when we have plans for our lives, in 5 years, I'm going to get this done. In 10 years, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to solve world hunger. That kind of problems too. I'll fix my partner. I'll fix my children, whatever it is. When we try that self energy, we are drained. We're stressed. We are burnt out. So Krishna actually says in the Gita, a person who's free from attachment and false ego, who works only for the satisfaction of the Lord, then that person is truly liberated. So that's our goal, that's our path, to actually liberate ourselves from self-will and align to Krishna's will. So in the first step, we have to recognize where we are at in that. So then missing Krishna's help, because Krishna is willing to take that burden. I don't have to carry it anymore. I remember one of my guides was the Saki. We have a system now, Sangha Sevak and Saki Seva, I mean, Sangha Sevaki or Sangha Sevak and Saki Sevak or Sakha Sevak. So one of the Sakis helped me understand again and again and again. It's not once, it's not twice. That's why we need one-on-one connection as well in this process, that you don't have to carry the load. Every time I go in front of Jagannath, I actually feel completely unloaded. Why? Because Krishna is willing to take that burden, but I am holding on to it because I think I know better. So that little piece of control that I'm still carrying is what is causing me trouble. Now, then there's a whole false security, my sense of control that is trapping me. So that's the fourth one here. You can see number 4. Number 4 is that false security. False security is, no, I did this and this happened. And I have to do this. But then when we look back, I'm looking back at my own life and I'm able to see for more than 10 years now, there has been certain projects that I'm trying to work on, and I can see there's fear there, there's resentment there, selfishness. Looking back at it, I see that all those many projects I tried to do were a failure because the mood was so much with those 4 anarthas. The core in this 12th step, we'll be addressing these 4 the checklist to see every day we'll do it. And the 10th step, we'll do inventory every day. Was I fearful today? Was I resentful today? Was I selfish today? Was I dishonest today? So these are the 4 things we'll keep looking at. It gives us so much information. All right. Then, after the false sense, right? The concept of surrender, when we resist, we are resisting surrender because we think that it means losing freedom. There's a fear. Oh my God, if I let go, and what if something happens? What if that person leaves me? What if that person, whatever, the fear. But real freedom means to allow Krishna to carry the Govardhan Hill. Let him do it. So common mindset blocks are, I want to surrender, but I also want to complain. I want to put the blame on other person. I want peace, but I also don't want to stop controlling outcomes. I want Krishna's help, but I don't want to let go of my preferences. So there is so much behind this that we'll go as we're going further into our step work, step 4, step 5. We will really look into that and release those chains. So to understand real freedom. False sense of freedom is in that AA big book, Alcoholic Anonymous book. They say a lot of addicts think anything goes. Anything goes. I'm just going to do whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, I'm not on diet. Let me eat whatever. Anyway, I'm wasted time. Let me scroll more. Anyway, I haven't done all these. Anything goes. Anything goes. That path. See, Krishna is God all the time. He's eternally waiting for us. There's no timing for him. He wait lifetimes. But as for us, why do we have to keep suffering? This mentality of anything goes, anything, kuch bhi chalega, whatever, do it, don't care, just do it, get it out of your system. That can be very a lot of waste of energy there. So that's a false sense of freedom to think that anything goes. There's a lot about that in the 12 steps of Alcoholic Anonymous. And some of the meetings that I would attend, there was this concept, and it's really like it's a shame that the non-devotee programs, they are so Krishna conscious. So it was really transformational for me to actually go there. So some of the things here are resistance paradox. So there's a resistance paradox. We demand Krishna's help while refusing his guidance. We touched upon that earlier. So like just like wanting a doctor to cure me, but then, I'm rejecting the treatment. Actually, true liberation means real freedom comes from aligning with Krishna's will. That's true liberation. That takes some sattva guna. So what they call it is sobriety, means don't drink, don't all the regulative principles. And then we have also internal regulative principles. Don't live on fear, don't live on resentment, don't live on dishonesty, and don't live on selfishness. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu ko he Vaishnav seva nam sankirtan, dui kore shigra pabe Shri Krishna charan. So in order for us to chant the holy name purely and serve Vaishnavas, that's true freedom. And that comes from alignment with Krishna's will. Now, so we find peace when we stop fighting Krishna's plan. So sometimes we have to realize, like Karna was fighting from the opposite army. He was on the wrong side, even though he was loyal and faithful, but to the wrong leader. So similarly, we have to look at what am I fighting against? What am I fighting for? What's the goal? What am I doing? Where am I going here? A lot of times I want money for what? I want a husband. Why? So these questions are very important. So it will help us when we're doing these 12 steps. It'll bring up all these questions. How much is it connected to my Krishna consciousness? So that then comes the whole Gita wisdom. We have a lot of Gita in our 12 steps program. I highly encourage you all to attend the meetings, take a Sakha or a Sakhi that can guide you through this process, and it can change your life depending on how much you give. They say if you give 100%, you get 100%. So give it all. If you give a 50-50, then it can be difficult. So a man who gives up all desires for sense gratification and finds satisfaction in the self is truly peaceful. So in order to do that, we need some sobriety, some sense of accountability, some checking in. There's a saying, it resonates so much to that saying, there is pain. Pain is inevitable. So either there is the pain of discipline or there's the pain of regret. And I cannot escape the pain. So either I discipline myself or I regret. It's inevitable. It will happen. So yeah, one of my reasons that I took this 12-step program and I started looking and researching to find Krishna conscious connections and teach other friends of mine was I really could see that internally, the disconnection, the fears, the confusion, the codependency, the addiction to being validated, workaholism, and needing other people to tell me that I'm good enough, all those things. Because Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam speak about very high level philosophy. And so sometimes there is a bridge that needs to be gapped between where I am and where Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are actually leading me. So this program, these tools of Atma Vichar, of our Anartha-Nivritti 12 steps, like I mentioned earlier, they're not like all-inclusive information or theory. These are practical tools that has helped me and helped so many of us. I hope it helps you also. Okay, so surrender is not about losing freedom. It's actually gaining freedom. All right, so next we have, what if you stopped resisting Krishna's adjustments and embraced them as mercy? What if we could really let go and let Govinda? What would happen? And that's like Shishyasteham Sadimam Tvam Prapannam. You'll study more about that in second and the third steps of the program. So when Krishna is accepted by Arjuna, he says, Arjuna says, I'm your disciple now. Shishyasteham, you instruct me. So that mood, it has to come internally as well. And that motivations as well, and that intentions. I don't need to figure everything out. It's okay. I'm a disciple. I'm openness, right? Openness and honesty. These were the two qualifications we needed. to take advantage of this step work. So we need to stop blocking Krishna from working on us and helping us. Okay, so finding true freedom through surrender. Oh, this one, yeah. Anyway, you will study more about these things: liberation paradox, self-deception. How we keep saying, "I'll surrender later," but then it keeps us trapped. Our independence is an illusion that prevents us from real growth. We'll study more from Bhagavatam and learn what is authentic freedom. So next is the power of asking for guidance. So Arjuna's surrender was, "Now I'm your disciple. Please instruct me." So his surrender was perfect and created with a genuine sense of vulnerability, genuine openness. And our daily choices, every moment I can offer my decisions, everything, I can ask Krishna to help me. He wants to help me. There's nothing too small, there's nothing too big for Krishna. And we don't, okay, sorry, I'm blocking that. We don't need solutions. We just need humility. We need a willingness to want to be part of the solutions, however, because some people love to be part of the problem. They keep talking about problem. Many modern day therapies also, they encourage us so much to keep delving more and more into the problem, ruminating, oh, why this happened, why that happened, what is my childhood wounds, too much. A little bit is good, but then handing it over to Krishna and taking that step to have that breakthrough is also important. So not to use it as an excuse. In other words, if you're not healed, you need healing. That's all right. But check and see if the intentions are because you like and you enjoy being in that tamasic pleasure. There's some pleasure, like a lot of people, a lot of devotees have gone through abuse and traumas, childhood traumas, parents through so many environmental issues, etc. And sometimes they don't want to move on. They've got accustomed to that tamas guna of remaining a victim. It's okay to do the external steps, but it's also important to take care of the soul and release, liberate. So this 12-step program really helps us to move from those resentments and heal ourselves and to learn to cater to our higher self's needs for liberation and freedom. All right. Oh yeah, this one, right? You remember there are the different types of anarthas, and pride comes from, some of you already answered that in the previous session, which we're doing. This is a re-recording of it. So some of you answered, Doshana was answering this question, that it comes from Doshana, Lakshmita, Aishwarya, I think all of you answered that. So you were all saying how? It comes from the sukrita, so the good active actions, good activities, and also some services. Sometimes we do service and then we may get a little bit pride there. That can block us. So our intention of why I'm doing a particular devotional service, am I doing it for recognition? Am I doing it for control? Or am I doing it really in the mood of service? This will help us. This 12 steps has helped me so much to clarify my intentions and emotions. And the simple questions open those floodgates. Let me show you that image. Let me see if I can quickly find it. There is the image of the dog-eating prostitute. This is the dog-eating prostitute lady dancing. So the Manashiksha says, as long as the unchaste dog-eating woman of desire for prestige dances in my heart, how can the chaste and pure lady of love for Krishna touch it? So you can see that. This is like a very powerful statement for me. So when I read this kind of things, when that gates of introspection opens up, the right questions come. Why am I doing this seminar? Why am I doing this particular book? Why am I going to this particular place? Why am I having this conversation? Why do I have this relationship? And these simple questions, they become floodgates for wisdom. And that's what happens through these 12 steps. It really helps. And many other things that can help you is journaling, writing down what you're experiencing, surrendering them to Krishna, not considering anything too small or anything too big, being brutally honest. When I was going through this step work, I used to have like journals and dozens of them. And at one point, it got so many that I just went and put all of them into Ganga. Then another thing is meditation. I will put some links below for the meditations that I've created. Again, these are all affirmations to bring our mind back to Krishna. There are meditations on taking shelter of Giriraj Govardhan. Also, you can imagine Krishna taking the reins of your life and look into what are you still gripping onto under prayers. We have prayers for every step, different prayers that helps us to surrender those mental resistance. And we ask Krishna to guide us at every step so that our mind doesn't stop us. All right. So to conclude today's topic, Krishna doesn't expect us to be perfect. He, in fact, we get more opportunities to come closer to Krishna when we are vulnerable, like Arjuna or Draupadi or Gajendra, all these examples that we'll study in the manual. The first step is just that first step that actually allows Krishna to come in. And that one thing can change everything. So we pray to Krishna, right? So I told you about journaling, your powerlessness, meditations, surrender, daily consistency. So all these things build strength. So we can end with the prayer. Dear Krishna, I admit that I am powerless over my weaknesses, over my mind's justifications, my mind's overthinking, and I admit that my life is unmanageable when I try to control it. Please help me to align to your will and let go of all the denial and accept your guidance and acknowledge the need for your guidance. Please take over the reins of my life. Krishna, I trust you. Letting go and letting Govinda. So the only way to truly align with Krishna is to stop arguing with it, arguing with Krishna's plans. So keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. And see you in the next session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.